The row between Pakistan and Iran escalates after Pakistan expelled the Iranian envoy and recalled its own from Iran. Pakistan has now conducted airstrikes on what it claims are Balochi terrorist hideouts, and as per reports, there have been 7 casualties as well. The strikes come at a time of rising turmoil in the Middle East over the war between Israel and Iran-backed Hamas, which has been raging for more than 100 days. While Iran and Pakistan have shared warm relations historically, there have been some tensions over the last few years. Iran and Pakistan established relations on the 14th of August 1947, the day of the independence of Pakistan, when Iran became the first country to offer recognition to Pakistan. Moreover, during the Cold War, both countries were part of the Western Bloc against the Eastern Bloc, and Pakistan has often served as a mediator in the Iran-Saudi Arabia proxy conflict as well. But what do we have at hand, and how is this in all likelihood going to disrupt or perhaps even compound the tension that we have seen in the Middle East? We'll talk about that with our guest. Joining us on the show is Major General Shashi Asthana, former Additional DG Infantry, Global and Strategic Defense expert. Also joining us on the show is Mr. Manish Gautam, International Affairs expert. Professor Madhav Nalapat, Editorial Director of the Sunday Guardian, also with us on the program. Professor Nalapat, I'll begin with you. Sir, like I just said in my opening monologue, that Iran and Pakistan have had shared cordial relationships. Despite the Shia-Sunni divide, there is obviously a lot of plateau for them, which is common, which of course I also did mention in my opening monologue as well as being part of the Eastern Bloc here again. What could have been the motivation in your expertise for Iran and Pakistan to get into this? Is this solely related to the idea of sovereignty for Iran? Or do you think that Iran also perhaps was tired of Pakistan using proxies, to solve a lot of problems that exist at the border between Iran and Pakistan?
Well, Vineet, first of all, the Iranian regime has been extremely unwise in the kind of support it has given Hamas. Hamas is a Sunni organization. At bottom, frankly, not Sunni, Wahhabi. And at bottom, the Wahhabis regard the Shia as their worst enemy. So they can never really have a warm feeling about Iran, but they'll be happy to get assistance from Iran. Iran has been helping them, and I think very unwisely. They have also been helping Hezbollah, which is, of course, Shia, and that too unwisely, because the reality is Iran, the Iranian people have suffered a lot because of the Iranian clerics' insistence that they can wipe out the state of Israel. It's never going to happen. Israel is a reality of life, and it's never going to be removed from the Middle East. So, frankly, Iran has made a lot of strategic errors. Having said that, I want to point out that there have been terror groups operating in Pakistan that have basically been conducting terror operations in Iran. And this has gone on for around, since the Khomeini took over in 1977, about from the 1980s onwards, certainly, this kind of activity has been going on. So we are talking of a considerable period of time, some 40 years, in fact, this has been going on. Iran, I think, Iran did not expect this retaliation from Pakistan. The fact is that Iran is now unwisely finding itself deeper and deeper into a war. Now, the Houthis, for example, it's very important for Iran itself that the waterway be kept open. But the Houthis are blocking that, and ultimately, one of the main sufferers is going to be Iran. Very unwisely, they are backing the Houthis, and they're not doing very much to unblock the waterway. They're supporting Hamas, which is the ideology of Hamas is very opposed to the Shia ideology of the bulk of the Iranian people. So having said that, now they're operating on that front. And as a consequence, certain countries will be very interested in ensuring a new front is open. And that front will be the front which is from the Baloch side, where you have Baloch individuals who are basically beholden to the Pakistan military and who are basically talking in terms of an independent Balochistan within Iran, not within Pakistan, mind you, where the real torture of the Baloch is taking place, but within Iran. So I think the worry is that the certain countries, and it's obvious what those countries are, the certain countries in the West would like to ensure that a new front is created for Iran, and Pakistan being a mercenary military, it will, whoever pays it, it will work, except that the one unalterable fact is it will not work for India, but it will always be hostile to India. Otherwise, whoever pays it, they will do what the paymaster wants. So the fear of the Iranians will be that the mercenary military of Pakistan may expand the operations of the terror groups based in Pakistan, active in Iran, and create a new front for Iran at a time when they're already heavily engaged on other fronts to their west. So I think the motivation was basically to tell the Pakistan army, watch out, we're not going to, we don't like this, please stop. And now what has happened is, obviously without any problem from the Chinese side, they would have consulted the Chinese. The Pakistan has done something which will, I think, please the Americans also, which is launch a counterattack on Iran for this, only because, frankly, the military regime is already facing an unpopular people, and they don't want to be even more unpopular by looking completely weak. Now, people have said in 65 war, 71 war, Iran supported Pakistan. Yes, but don't forget, that is Iran of the Shah of Iran. That Iran was linked to United States. And at that point in time, the United States was hostile to India. Certainly in 65, certainly in 71. It was Cold War 1.0. Today we are in Cold War 2.0, and the Chinese are, frankly, in the position that the USSR was in. But the reality is the Chinese want to divert attention as much as possible by creating as many flashpoints as possible. And even though they claim friendship with Pakistan, friendship with Iran, in fact, they claim a very strong friendship with India at the same time as they're committing aggressive actions on India. But the fact is, the Chinese want to light fires wherever they can so that the attention is diverted away from the activities of China internally and possible planned external activities, including across the Taiwan Strait. So I think the Iranians wanted to make a point, don't try and open a second front to the mercenary military of Pakistan. And then the Chinese got in the picture and said, let's stir the pot up a little more, because the more such fires burn, the less attention they paid to the mischief that we are doing.
Absolutely right. General Asthana, looking at the history and the histrionics between these two, do you think it's a cause of concern that something like this has not transpired, although tensions have flared up between the two, but it actually has never resulted in exchange of attacks? What kind of a situation, is the world staring at when it comes to Pakistan and Iran? Obviously, both the regimes have lived in denial. Both the regimes have had their own issues when it comes to dictatorial tendencies and human rights as well. What exactly are we looking at over here, and what will be the role of India, the United States and China when it comes to this conflict, and in juxtaposition to what's happening in Israel with Gaza? How is this likely to spiral into something bigger?
Let me explain in two terms. That is, firstly, the geographical term, and then the strategic picture, the bigger strategic picture. There is no doubt that there are powers in the world who want Iran to get engaged a little more, so that Iran cannot concentrate in the area where they don't want them to concentrate. That's one part of it. Secondly, the irritants existed between Pakistan and Iran for quite some time. Now, for explaining to the viewers, I must analyze that as far as Baluchistan is concerned and Baluch people are concerned, there are people in Pakistan, there are people in Iran, and there are also some people in Afghanistan. And when they were talking about the greater Baluchistan part of it, then all three include the greater Baluchistan. Now, Pakistan army has been quite harsh on the Baluchis in Pakistan. And therefore, there are Baluchi groups which are operating within Pakistan as well as in Iran. Conversely, as Shia-Sunni divide is there, so therefore there are Sunni groups which are operating in Pakistan against Iran. And the tipping point why Iran had to take some action was because they fear, or perhaps they must have found some evidence that during the brigadier who was killed of the IRGC, perhaps there was some involvement of some of these elements who are inside Pakistan. And they were quite sensitive to it, so they thought that they would respond to the terrorist group and hope that it will end there. Now, as far as Pakistan is concerned, Pakistan military, with all the brickbats it has got, it certainly cannot have a brickbat in a manner that attack is launched on their soil and they don't do anything about it. So therefore, they had to do something about it, and therefore they have responded the way they have responded. Now, as far as the counter-terror groups are concerned, as I mentioned, they exist in both sides. Now, when we talk of Iran, the timing is concerned. The timing, I think, is very bad for Iran, because Iran is involved in a lot of other conflicts as well. So, therefore, it was a bad time to get engaged with Pakistan. But notwithstanding that, a message to the terrorists, and terrorists in the backyard of Pakistan are a problem creators, and the whole world must know and must support. And I think in that context, perhaps when we talk of right of self-defense, the same right of self-defense is applicable to everybody, including us, when we stuck on Balakot, when we launched Balakot strikes. Now, as far as Pakistan is concerned, the last part of the question which you asked, what should USA do? Maybe USA may be very happy about it. So I don't think they will do anything. In case a little bit of escalation takes place, I think a fair amount of the problems which Iran is trying to pose on them, maybe in Red Sea or maybe elsewhere, may get subdued. So that's one part of it. As far as China is concerned, apparently, China has been telling them, all the sides, to have patience, because they've got, as of now, good relations with Iran, and they've got a lot of stakes with Iran as well, in addition to Pakistan. But notwithstanding that, there is the China's role can still be a question mark as to what it could be. As far as India is concerned, we believe that terrorism in any form and manifestation anywhere in the world must be condemned. And I think that should remain our stand, whether it is the terrorism in Pakistan, whether it is terrorism elsewhere, it must be condemned. And I think Pakistan, one thing is very clear in this whole episode, that Pakistan continues to be the safe haven for all the terrorist groups in the world, including groups which are associated with IS as well. So this particular group which we are talking about has got some lineage with ISIS also. So therefore, apparently, what has been done in Iran, I think Iran would have also thought that enough is enough, and now I must respond in some manner or the other. Vineet.
Manish Gautam, do you think that's exactly the premise that Iran launched this attack, that enough is enough? Pakistan has gotten away with literally murder and genocide in the past, and it was time that somebody took action against them.
Yes, we need the present situation in this region brings us to a cause of grave concern, considering the fact that the two nations have experienced tensions related to regional rivalries and alliances. But despite these differences, they have attempted to maintain cooperation, at least on various issues like security. But despite having established channel of communication, the relationship of the two countries now has reached to a state where the two have to carry out surgical strike against each other, and particularly when the head of the government of Pakistan met with Iranian foreign minister, within no time of that meeting, Iran carried out surgical strike in Pakistan, followed by retaliatory such nature strike by Pakistan on Iranian soil. Now, one thing which I would like to bring to the notice of your viewers that surgical strikes are carried out under the doctrine of hot pursuit. Now, the two countries are obligated to establish how this is within the doctrine of hot pursuit. At least for Iran, we may say to some degree that it was within the doctrine of hot pursuit. But how can Pakistan justify the retaliatory strike under the doctrine of hot pursuit? This means that it is going to escalate for sure. And we need one thing which I would like your viewers and my co-panelists also to give due consideration from Indian perspective, emergence of this part as the new epicenter of global terrorism. Earlier, Pakistan and Afghanistan border in POK area was the epicenter of global terrorism, but now we are seeing a new epicenter of global terrorism in the form of southeastern Iran and West Pakistan, where the two countries shares border with Afghanistan. And this has again established what Sasi Asthana sir told just now, that see, we have been telling this to the world, that if we have to fight terrorism, we will have to stop making distinction between good and bad terrorism. And definitely the approach of the two countries is establishing that they are making distinction between good and bad terrorism. Until and unless I feel that India's stand gets validated, that the world can only combat terrorism if there is a universally accepted, definition of terrorism, and then the key powers in the world, immediate effect, they stop making distinction between good and bad terrorism.
All right, good and bad terrorism. That's an interesting point that you bring out here. Professor Nalapad, concluding thoughts, sir. How is this likely to increase the internal turmoil, the implosion that Pakistan, the slow implosion that Pakistan has been enduring for so long? It's an election year, and Pakistan obviously has no choice but to get back into the same rut that has always led to its current situation.
Well, the fact of the matter is that this has drawn attention to the Baloch issue once again. And frankly, Vineet, the world has paid very little attention to what is happening to the Baloch people in Pakistan and the horrible atrocities that they are facing at the hands of the Pakistan military every day. This has drawn attention to that. And Pakistan's effort has been to export any kind of a movement against its own terrorism, the Pakistan military's own terrorism against Baloch people, to Iran. And they have been helping groups in Iran of Baloch who basically, and they have been telling them, we'll help you to try and get a separate country, but within Iran, not within Pakistan. So this has been going on now for about 40 years. And now that particular strategy of Pakistan is being exposed for the whole world to see. Now, will this escalate? I think, Mr. Gautam has a very significant point that it is very likely to escalate, but just shows the fundamental incompatibility between Pakistan, which is ruled by a Wahhabi military, and Iran. And I do hope that the Iranian regime will understand that supporting Hamas, which is a completely Wahhabi outfit, is as senseless, frankly, as basically, as senseless as his decision to go along with the Houthis, who are Shia, in blocking a waterway that is critical to Iran's own prosperity. Who will benefit from this? Well, Russia will benefit. A lot more Russian oil will be on the market. China will benefit because China is the largest, buyer by far of Russian oil. So I do believe that the Iranian regime will need to introspect on who its real enemies are. And from that point of view, who are the forces that for 40 years has tried to create a situation in which you have an effort to create an independent Baloch Republic within Iran. Now, all I can say, Vineet, is that yes, it is escalating. There's no question about it. And I can only say that as far as China is concerned, because of the fact that Russia has now been completely pushed into the clutches of China, they are quite confident of meeting their petro product needs, independent of the Gulf countries, whereas India is not. And that is, in my view, why the Chinese would have probably given a wink and a nod to, okay, you want to go after them, and we'll try and talk to the Iranians. Now, the Iranians stop at this and don't do anything further. Well, the fact is that that regime looks weak. And in Iran also, there have been massive protests, several times against the clerical regime. So it also cannot afford to look weak. So I think because both the military in Pakistan and the clerical regime in Iran cannot afford to look weak in the face of this kind of a challenge, there is every danger of an escalation in this situation.
Absolutely right. General Asthana?
After Hamas has brought Palestinian issue in the forefront, there is also a clamor that TTP can bring Pashtun issue in the forefront and Baluchis can bring Baluchi issue in the forefront. So perhaps there is a little bit of motivation that these issues, which were in the back burner, I think if the area gets escalated, maybe our cause is also heard. And the kind of atrocities which Pakistanis have been doing on Baluchis, they can get into the forefront. The second part is we have to analyze as to who benefits from the blockade of oil in Red Sea, as Professor Nalapat mentioned. There is no doubt that even if Red Sea gets blocked, China has made arrangements that the Iranian oil through land can reach them in some manner or the other. Similarly, they are getting it from Russia as well. So this Red Sea blockage can in fact impact others who are other oil dependent countries. Maybe having established a rail link directly to Iran, they could be in a slightly better position. Similarly, Russia will also get affected. It will also benefit Russia in a manner that their oil will get sold much more than what it was earlier. And oil dependencies in this area will perhaps suffer against in favor of maybe Russia-China alliance. So or Russia-China axis. So apparently, if we put all these puzzle pieces together, also as far as Americans are concerned, any disruption or any shall I say engagement of Iran elsewhere, that suits Americans as well. So apparently the superpowers may not be this entire game may be suiting some of the superpowers as well. And as far as we are concerned, even Pakistan, it's not a good news for Pakistan, certainly. It's not a good news for Iran as well. And as far as we are concerned, we will have to perhaps also look at options as to how we have to look at our oil energy inflow. That also perhaps we will have to think about it. Vineet.
Right. Manish, concluding thoughts?
Yes. So, Vineet, my co-panelists have already very beautifully brought in discussion that how the world will see towards the possible escalation, if any. But I just want to add on one thing. From Indian perspective, over and above the trade and commerce concern and economy concern, that this is happening in immediate neighborhood of India. It's happening between two countries which are nuclear, and serious question over whether they are responsible nuclear power or not. And third thing, it's happening on account of cross-border terrorism. So India will have to keep a very close watch based on these three very important aspects associated with this conflict between Pakistan and Iran, and we'll have to walk a very tight rope, as India keep on saying that it has zero tolerance towards cross-border terrorism. But at the same time, when the matter is, if escalating, then what consequential impact it can generate over the fragile geopolitical balance in this region, that's something which India should watch very carefully.
Absolutely. Well, this is obviously a very volatile situation. It's ever changing. We are really not certain as to what could happen tomorrow, knowing the unpredictabilities that both these countries have been marred with, even when it comes to international relations.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.